Hello and welcome to The Big Show. It's Alex Belfield talking to the big stars, and one of my favourite loose women is Denise Welch. How are you?
I'm fine, but you say that to all the girls.
Well, I do really, to be honest with you. But you're
I know you do.
I'll tell you why you're one of my favourite. I love having Colleen on, and Jane's one of my favourite people ever.
Yeah,
but
and mine.
You are just honest and real and raw, and that's your best friend and your worst enemy, isn't it?
I think it is. You know, for those people who sort of admire my honesty, you're obviously going to get people who knock you and think that it's a little bit too much. But, you know, you can't please all the people all the time, can you, Alex?
Were you born mouthy?
Yes, I was, I think. It's not like I set out to do this kind of, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give it all. It's just that when I'm on Loose Women, I just sort of forget that I'm on the television. And then I go, and I don't think I've said anything sort of like revealing or controversial particularly till I go to my dressing room and my mobile's going beep, 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 with all the texts from irate family members and friends, you know. So I do sort of have to hold back a bit, but obviously, you know, I knew that when I was doing the book, that if I was going to do it at all, that I would probably be a bit more candid than maybe some people would be.
I spoke to Colleen last year when she brought out her book, and then I spoke to her about 6 weeks later, because in between, people read the book, and she was almost surprised that people picked out the worst bits, and then her family kicked off. Did you learn from that and show your family it before it was published?
Oh, yes, I did. I mean, obviously, you know, because it's not like I went, oh, by the way, if you pop into the local bookshop, you'll see a revealing autobiography that I just wrote. So yes, I did, and they obviously did all read it, and they were all. When I say all, I don't just mean Tim. I meant my mum and my dad and my sister, and you know, we're a very close family, so I knew what the ripple effect would be if they didn't like it. So they were at liberty to change what bits they wanted to. The thing is about, because we went for serialization, and although you kind of know that they're going to put what's in the book, you sort of are a little bit unprepared for the impact of that, I have to say. It's just a bit sort of startling to see it in the tabloid press. And obviously, because that is the nature of the tabloids, and I understand what their job is, they are going to pick out the more controversial and salacious aspects of the book. Whereas when you do read it, it hopefully gives a sort of a more rounded view, and you know there is I hate that word journey, because it's just become like a reality TV word, which I hate. But there is a journey from beginning to end, which includes these dark episodes, but also hopefully people see that it includes some nice episodes and some funny ones too.
Let's talk about you as a child. You were born in Whitley Bay. Were you different? Were you odd? Was show business beckoning to you?
No, you know, I wasn't different, and I wasn't particularly ambitious, and I didn't show any show business leanings, as it were. I mean, I was sort of maybe a little bit ahead of my time. I mean, my mum always says that when I was about 9, which I guess around the age that my youngest son is now, and you know, it was sort of early evening or whatever, and her friends would come round for a girls' night, I genuinely could not understand why they would possibly want me to go to bed. Do you know what I mean? It was like, what do you mean you don't want me to contribute to this evening? So I think there's always been a little bit of centre of attentionness going on. But I didn't really think about going into the acting industry until I was much, much older. I mean, in the book I talk about one of my dad's best friends being Ian Lafrene, who was the very successful writer of The Likely Lads, and ironically Our Wiedersehen Pet, of course, which starred my husband. So although there were people like Rodney Bewes who came to stay for a while when they were doing The Likely Lads, we didn't really come from a show business family. And as I say, it wasn't until I was in my teens that, encouraged by my dad, that I sort of went into the business. So, and I was quite conformist as a child. I wasn't rebellious. I didn't even rebel as a teenager. So I was really quite quite boring.
What's it like having a dad who from time to time dresses up in a frock?
Well, you see, I say quite boring and I say quite normal, and then we bring up Raquel. And I just kind of thought that was normal. So maybe I did have more of a scarred childhood than I'm allowing myself to think. Yeah, my dad has dressed up as a woman, and because of me talking about it, Raquel's had a little bit of a resurrection in the press recently as well. One of our more famous glossy magazines did a 6-page spread on us recently, and it was my father's greatest hour. You know, he was just he was just so thrilled to be on the cover as Raquel. And basically it started where he was a very young, pretty man, as opposed to a big, handsome, strapping hunk. And they had me rather young. And when they were in their early 20s, they went to a fancy dress. Mum as a sort of dressed as a man and Dad as a woman. And he started to do a few gags, as is his wont, and people started to say, "Oh, Vin, would you come to our party and do that?" So it sort of developed from there and became more of a little charity thing he used to do. But, you know, there is a story which is really true, that one day an insurance man came to the door and I said, "Oh, my dad's upstairs getting ready to do a charity thing," failing to say, as Shirley Bassey. Right. So when Shirley Bassey came down and sat on the settee, legs akimbo, to sign the forms, the guy literally backed out of the house. But as I say, I've always sort of accepted it, and you know, and my dad was kind of forced by my grandpa, because I came along a tad earlier than expected, and my dad was forced to go into the family firm when really he was overqualified for that. So he sort of threw himself into a social life, which included dressing up as a woman. And now my husband is going off to play a transvestite in Benidorm, so I'm trapped in cross-dressing hell.